difficulties, but I think we're good to go now. So, good evening again. Thanks for coming to the CFA Society of the Bahamas Financial Literacy Series. This is the third and final night of our series. Tonight we're going to have a very good and engaging conversation on entrepreneurship, what you need to know to start a business, manage a business, how to get funding, all of that good stuff. Before we get started, if everyone doesn't mind, can you please put your phones on silent or vibrate just so we have no or limited interruptions as this is being recorded. So just let me briefly introduce the CFA Society. So CFA Society of the Bahamas is an organization of local financial and investment professionals, most of who hold or are pursuing the Chartered Financial Analyst designation. Our mission is to lead the Bahamian investment industry by promoting ethics, building awareness, and fostering education in the local community. For more information, please visit our website at cfasociety.org/Bahamas. So tonight we have a very dynamic and very well-educated speaker. Our speaker for the night is Nicholas Higgs. Nicholas Higgs is the Managing Director of the Bahamas Development Bank, which is the Bahamas government's catalyst in facilitating and stimulating sustainable development throughout the Bahamas. He currently leads the operation and fundraising of the bank. This includes negotiating a $30 million World Bank guarantee, $50 million from the Green Climate Fund, and $20 million from the European Investment Bank. Nicholas Higgs was the Director and Chief Operating Officer for the Access Accelerator Small Business Development Center, where he led the business development side of the organization. These efforts led to over 1,900 entrepreneurs receiving $500 million in funding over 3 years. $60 million in funding over 3 years. His work with these entrepreneurs will result in an economic impact of $2.4 million to the Bahamas. Mr. Higgs is no stranger to raising millions or to creating economic impact. He previously led the research department and assisted in corporate advisory for one of the largest locally owned financial institutions in the Bahamas, CFAL. In partnership with Fidelity Bank Bahamas, he led a team that raised $60 million in funding for Be Alive Limited. Obtaining a degree in finance and business analysis with a minor in philosophy, which he received at Lemoyne College, Mr. Higgs is also a chartered financial analyst and has successfully passed the Series 7 examination. He also graduated from St. Augustine's College in 2008, and in typical fashion, most SAC people will tell you where they're from. A believer in investing in the community that invested into him, Mr. Higgs is also a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Toastmasters 1600, and was an advisor for the Junior Investor Program. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce our speaker for tonight, Mr. Nicholas Higgs.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, actually. So thank you so much for coming today to hear about entrepreneurship. And so when you look at my parents' age, when you look at my parents' time, they really, boy, is it cutting out? Or is it just me? Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
In my parents' time, they focus on doctors, the lawyers, the accountants. And now you see in today's generation, we're heavily focused on the entrepreneur. Persons are silently quitting, become your own boss and stuff. That's really been a big focus lately on social media over the last 10, 15 years. But entrepreneurship is extremely hard. Some persons can accumulate success in a commercial bank and may make $150,000, $200,000 a year. And that might be a good life. Some persons may want to make $30,000 a year and live a good life. There may be entrepreneurs who can become billionaires overnight by creating a specific app or an application or anything of sorts. Or you may make 10 businesses and don't succeed at any. Neither of these routes are easy. Neither of these routes are guaranteed. And with entrepreneurship, there's never been a time in history, there's never been a time in the culture when more businesses, entrepreneurs, succeeded than failed. That never happened. It's always been, there have been more who have tried than failed in entrepreneurship. There's countless businesses that are started daily. If you use LivePlan, you can constantly see persons are starting business, new ideas muddling through their minds, new ways of doing it, whether they can't get funding or they tried the business and it didn't work. There's many different things to take into account when you're considering being an entrepreneur. So let's get straight started, right? So when you're looking at this right here, how do you start a business? The first thing is you have to think. You have to sit there and start to understand what this business is you're trying to do. What's the market? Who can you charge for this? Is it a product? Is it a service? Is it inventory, retail? Is it service-based? What is happening? Then you have to really look at who's your customer base, the channels of which you get these things from one person to the next. A good example. What might it? Okay. Okay, so everyone should hear me now. That threw me off a little bit just now. But there's a lot of factors you take into account when you're starting a business. This is the conceptual stage now. You're looking at things like your key partners. Who are the relevant stakeholders in this business? If it's a sales business, or let's say inventory business, am I using BFS? This is still not working. Is it BFS? Who are you utilizing to purchase your items? Can you get a lower cost internationally? What is the taxes associated with bringing those items in? Is it very expensive? Is it cheaper to buy in the Bahamas? Who are you utilizing? Maybe in the Bahamas, they'll give you 30 days to pay. If you buy stateside, it may not be the case. If you look at during the COVID time, logistically, you could not move things from China to the Bahamas very quickly. Things went from 2 to 3 months to sometimes it took a year to happen. There was a company who had and so I like examples. It's very important to me, the examples. There was a company who bought this huge container, filled up. They used all their resources to buy this container full of items. The items supposed to arrive November. It arrived January. All of the items in that container were Christmas items. So they had no money because they couldn't sell it when it arrived January. It was done. There's a bunch of Christmas toys for kids, Santa stuff. What can they do with that? And that money was supposed to flip for them to buy their stuff for February. Another container is supposed to arrive. So November, February. Now they can't sell their first items. They don't have money to clear their second items. Now they're in a complete hole. So you have to understand a lot of these things when you're moving in business. Company structure. So this is the most basic conversation, won't stay here long. Sole proprietorship, partnership, limited liability company. Most persons start off as a sole proprietorship, and then their goal is to be a limited company, and then the dream is to IPO. Now, there are pros and cons to sole proprietorship. Obviously, it's the easiest to establish. You can go to Inland Revenue website, apply for your business license, and you are an entrepreneur within 48 hours, depending on how the system is set up, as regards to how they're backlogged. Now, the cons of that is unlimited liability. Now, this is critical. Everyone who's in business should understand this. Anyone who wants to be in business needs to understand this. Unlimited liability means you and the company are one and the same. If you mess up, the company mess up. The company mess up, you mess up. All of you are intertwined into each other. And you don't want this situation. Well, I won't say you don't want it. If there is a way not to have that, I would not recommend that. My recommendation for anyone who has the resources to go with a limited liability company, because there's a limited liability of it, obviously. Now, this is more costly to raise. Sole proprietorship, I think the business license is like $100 or something like that. And so it's relatively easy. A limited liability company, you're looking at some persons go $1,600. I've seen persons charge $3,000 because you need a lawyer to do it. You have to do filings. You have share registry. You have all these agreements. You have to issue a certain amount of shares, issued versus authorized. All of these concepts you have. But the biggest pro for this would be that you are separate from your company. So if someone sues ABC Company Limited, you are an owner, a shareholder. You cannot be sued unless you broke the law in regards to your role as a director of sorts. But generally, you and those items are separate. In a sole proprietorship, if I sue you, I can come for your personal assets. If I sue your company, I come for your personal assets. In a limited liability company, we are completely separate. Unless you guarantee, which I hope you don't do. But partnerships, this is an interesting one. We come together. Me and my friend wake up one morning, we can start making food together. We can make donuts and we can sell them online during Valentine's Day. Oh, that's great. We're sharing the expenses. We are enjoying the revenue. Our risk is low because we're sharing just the risk associated with it. My problem with partnerships is I found traditionally a lot of them struggle. because persons don't clearly outline who's the roles and responsibilities of which. And so when we have a fight, there's a separation. Who's the company? What was the German Russian company? Puma, and who's the other one? Adidas. They're brothers, right? The owners of Puma and Adidas are cousins or brothers, fight, we hate each other now, huge companies. And so I find a great example is there's a relationship. A company, they made ice cream. And, oh man. No, it's a Caribbean company, I won't say the name. She kicked him out the house, cut him off, and the business has then crumbled and failed. She stayed in the company, he did not because of the split, and he was the one who did the accounts, she did most of the operations. Now she's trying to do the accounts, the numbers ain't adding up, the expenses ain't lining up, and the business has now crumbled. So partnerships, if you decide to go that route, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but you should clearly outline who is handling what, whether we're feeling good or we're friends or not. I know persons who've made their girlfriends their accountants. She's not a business owner, she's the accountant. You have filings you gotta get done, reports you have to understand, so you're making sure you're maintaining. They had a fight, they didn't talk in 3 days, he didn't get his reports. Now he's in a rough spot. So all of these have pros and cons. Sole proprietorship, easy to get done. For partnerships, you're sharing the stress. Limited liability, you have a situation where you are protected and separate. So when you're looking at deciding which one to use, understand your situation. If it's you singularly, now you're looking at sole proprietorship or limited liability. If it's numerous of you, you're looking at partnerships or limited liability. If you're going partnership, I strongly suggest a partnership agreement. Google one, get a simple one, just to clearly outline. No matter what happens, every month I'll have this done, every 2 weeks I'll have that done. So if y'all don't communicate, everyone clearly knows what they mustn't do. Choosing the right location. So I'll start off with a quick example. There's a company who had, I'll say it. It was everyone knows Pulpy?
Yeah.
Pulpy was they were Carmichael Road first, and then they went to Village Road. And Village Road was so amazing. You had the persons in Blair just walking in, business was doing unbelievably well, and then you found out PPL was cutting them off all the time, that area. They were load shedding around that time, and so obviously ice cream, you are in a situation. So though it was the best location, you had the best clientele, operationally, it wasn't fitting. And so you saw them leave there and they're now Sandy Port doing well. So when you're looking at a location, you have to understand it's not only about, oh, this will do great. Is it in your pricing budget? Does it fit? A lot of persons tell me, I'll go downtown, man, I could revamp it. Rent down there is $5,000 a month. Can your business take that type on? Can your business do that? So you have to ask yourself these questions. So you have some persons who bring their personality into the location. I'm a bougie person, so I want a bougie location for my business. Does your business require that? Where is your market? Where do they need to see you? I think one of the best tailors in this country is suit makers is Kedar. Kedar is right on Montrose Avenue. Excellent, doing extremely well. So when you're looking at location, what does your business need? Where's your market? Where's your competition? Are you close to your competition? Too far from your competition? Where's your customers? And so these things you have to take into account. So your brand, and that is very important. Very important. Does this emit what I'm trying to get persons to see? And so you have to ask yourself these hard questions and make sure to look into all of these when you're deciding where to put your business. Oh man, this is my favorite. This is my favorite. So I am a business plan. I really like business plans. But they also could be the biggest waste of your time. The truth could be, you could spend months and months toiling away at a business plan and nothing can happen. No reality is there. Again, I like examples, and this one is personally for myself. I had a bunch of gym equipment in my parents' place in Harbor Island. They have this little commercial spot. And I had it there, a client left it there for years. He just disowned his equipment and left. So I said, I'm gonna start my own gym. And I'm writing this business plan, weeks go by. Weeks, I'm just analyzing the pricing of the market, I'm pulling the US information, everyone information down, and I said I'll start next week Friday. The guy came back this items the Monday before that, and I wasted my time. I completely wasted my time writing a plan all day. So you have to realize that it's important to write your plan to understand where you're going, but you can't get stuck there. You will always be writing and adding and tweaking, and you begin then become insecure because I'm not sure if this will work. So at some point in time, you have to realize I have to stop and move forward. And so business plan is important. This tells you where your business is, what you plan to do, how you're going to achieve it, and your expectations and milestones to accomplish your goals. And so these are the general things you're looking at. Me, most importantly, is use of proceeds, financial ratios, financial assessments. These there, I'm reading those first. I haven't even read what your business does yet. I don't even know what you do. But I'm looking at these financial statements, and someone who's really good at reading financials can get a clear understanding of your business through your financial statements. So if I read your executive summary and then go straight here, I understand what your money is for, what you're going to do with it, what you need to achieve, and I can then look at your projections to see how much you need to hit to handle those, your net incomes expected, and your historical data if you're an existing business. But all this information for someone who's writing, you need to have all of this information. You need to understand your business in and out. And so a business plan is very important. And there's a few types of business plans we'll go over. So a one-page business plan is the same as a lean plan to me. Online will say different, but to me, generally, they handle the similar information. Sorry. So a growth plan is a company that's usually already existing, and you're now trying to figure out how to hit the goals in the future to hit. I now have an opportunity. I'm renting 6 cars right now. I want to do 10 cars now. So your growth plan is, how can I do that? Do I need more drivers? Do I have enough parking spaces for my cars? Do I have enough plates for my cars? What's the cost of bringing 3 cars instead of 4? Maybe I should wait 6 more months and get 6, because then I get a wholesale fee as a discount. So you have to ask yourself these questions. And so a growth plan is a really good plan. A one-page business plan is very short. I would truthfully say no one's giving you $500,000 off a one-page business plan. That's just a reality. Most persons won't give you $5,000. If you walk to me and say, hey, this is my plan, it's a one-pager. Fund me $5,000. No one's really going to give it to you. They have to know you. And so the one-page plan to me is a little better for existing businesses, almost more of a pitch deck, something that's just giving you a snapshot of who I am. But if you are interested, here's my full plan here for you. Now, a 5-year plan, okay, this is a regular business plan. Your business plans traditionally should be 2 to 5 years projected. Now, obviously, every business is different. There are some persons who may have an opportunity that's only 9 months out. This is an opportunity. Oh, it's a good example is Carnival. Carnival is once a year. I plan to sell the stocking things and the shakers. You don't need a 5-year plan for this. You need a 6-month plan, 9-month plan. How am I going to get the items in? What's the cost associated? What's the market? A person's going to buy from the States, China, etc. So business plans are important. I won't stay here too long, but non-profit business plan. So I'll break this down into 2 areas. So a non-profit plan could literally be for a non-profit company, but it also could be an internal business plan, like a strategic business plan or an operational business plan. You already have your business, but you feel lost. What am I doing? Like, where am I really at? So you know what? Let me start writing out strategically where I'm at, operationally where I'm at, so I can get an understanding of where my business is. And so you may find just through studying that, looking at your cost of goods sold, realizing they're a little too high. That's when you start to realize I need to go to a different supplier, or maybe I need to discontinue this area completely. And so for yourself, all of these business plans are important. It just depends on what type of business you have and what's your goal that you're trying to achieve. Now for me, if someone brings a business plan to me to get funded, if you want to move as fast as possible, your first year should be a monthly financial statement. You have that, you're already in my good graces. So for me, I like to understand that. Because if you do an annual, right, that is accumulating all within that 1 year. And so let's give an example. The same ice cream company, I'm buying a machine from China. The machine will arrive in 6 months. And I'll pay my second deposit. First deposit is month 0. It'll arrive month 6, right? The problem is, if you're looking at annual statements, it'll say, oh, I just need this money, cool. The problem is you need the money at month 1, but you need to have the second set of money for month 6. Also, some persons, when does their revenue start? What they'll do is, they'll start their revenue from month 1. When revenue should not start even month 6. Revenue should start month 7 because it has to be installed. And if you want to be more conservative, maybe month 9, because suppose there's issues with logistics or getting things over customs. So in your first year, my recommendation is always to have your first year projections to be monthly, so someone can tell the story. The money arrives to you here, you buy the equipment here, they land, installed, and ready to go there. Now there are certain businesses where you can have all that happen in month one. I will know that via your financial statements. So these are things that you really want to do. And the best place I use to write my business plans is LivePlan. This is not a shameless plug. I'm not a shareholder, but I've used them for years. It's very simple. I've enjoyed it. They allow you to plug in your monthly inventory. So you say, hey, I plan to sell 20 this month. This is the cost. This is the seasonality. And it calculates your full financial statements for you. They'd ask you, what's your upfront cost? How much did you put in? How much did you buy? How much is the depreciation on the cars? How quickly do you need inventory to turn over? They'll ask you all those questions, you answer it, and it automatically calculates your financial statements for you. So you get a question?
As an app or
LivePlan's a website.
a
Website is not very expensive, and you can add your friends, your family, or a partner to it, and y'all can update together live. And so you could also do it on your phone, but it's not an app. Go to the website, and it's very clear, and I really like it. For someone who's not specialized in finance and the accounting system, it's very easy for anyone of any experience in business to create. Now this is the fun part, getting licensed. And so if anyone has, wait, how many persons here are entrepreneurs? Okay, okay. Of those who didn't raise your hand, how many aspire to be an entrepreneur? Okay, this part can be a fun part. You go to Inland Revenue's website and you apply, you pick your name, and you just put all your information there, NID information. It's not a difficult process, but depending on the backlog, depending on the time of year, it can be very long. I know someone who took 5 months to get their business license. Truth be told, I pay a guy $150 and he handles my license in 2 days.
Yes.
I'm not recommending that, but it's all legal, but he used to be there and he has a business for that now. So for me, I prefer not to wait that long or even apply. So he just asked me my company names, 3 examples, my NIB information, my passport information, my street address, and within 2 days I have my license done. And so that's what I've done. But the cheaper route is obviously to go learn and do it yourself. And again, that's actually a good business model if you learn to do it. One time for yourself, you can do it for others. The only big differences would be like health or food stuff, etc. They're more difficult. But this is a difficult process for most for their first time. But I would say if you spend a weekend and you just read through and try it out, you should be able to get through the application process. But it honestly isn't as easy for some. There was an example about 2 years ago. They were completely backed up. And so you couldn't get a license for months. But I've been advised they cleared that up. Or even when it comes to choosing what type of business license is important. So you may go for a consultancy, you may go for general maintenance. There's a lot of options, so really understanding where your business is. Maybe you might have to call NIB, ask a friend, or just try. Just pick one. But it is, you have to look at what is your business doing to make sure you pick the right business license. Oh, so this is the application process online. It's relatively smooth. You go to Inland Revenue's website and you just add all the information. Now this is always the fun part for everybody. How do we get funded? Okay. Now before we get to the persons individually, funding is not easy to get done. It is difficult. Anyone who believes you can just walk into anywhere and get money, as a startup, I promise you it's not going to be that. And that's not only in the Bahamas. When persons talk about the States, oh, I can get money, $200,000 so quickly. I question the rates that they're getting, I'm questioning the terms they're getting, and it's not easy. It used to be LIBOR, but now it's SOFR is the interest rate margin that the benchmark that most persons utilize. And SOFR last year was about 1%. So if you were getting a loan, some persons say SOFR plus 2%, SOFR plus 5%. SOFR was 1%, and now SOFR is like 4.5, 4.6%. So your base rate is considerably higher now, so your rates are higher. And this is in the States and global, right? And so you have to understand the market of which you're borrowing from. Is this the low phase? Is this the high phase? And so I'll ask the question. Everyone familiar with inflation? Anyone want to tell me what inflation is? Come on. Okay, correct. So inflation is interesting, right? The reason why inflation is interesting because when governments want you to spend more money, make sure I say it right. Monetary policy and fiscal policy, right? And so one of those that I can't remember. I'm looking at Tiffany right now, trying to remember which one, right? But either way, governments, if they want you to spend less, they're pushing interest rates up. They want you to have less money. They want money to be more expensive. If they want you to spend more, they're decreasing rates. And so in the U.S. right now, as you know, there's an inflation crisis going on. Everything is expensive, it's higher. So what they're doing is the Fed is pushing up rates to try to get a hold on inflation. And that has effects on everything from your insurance policies to the food prices you have. All of those things are affected. So if they're pushing inflation up, that means hopefully costs will go down and hopefully the Bahamas will experience that as well. But when you come into funding, you have to look at those things. Who is your audience? Who are you talking to? So if you're talking to family, they know you. So either they're very quickly going to say, I would never lend them money, or I'm open to lending them money based on this opportunity. I hope you're not in the first one, and I hope you're closer to the second. Now if you're going to a commercial bank, they're looking at things very differently than an equity investor. A lot of commercial banks in the Bahamas don't look at the cash flow statement. They look at the balance sheet, income statement, then they go to collateral, right? If you come to me and you don't have a cash flow statement, it's denied. If I can't understand how your cash is coming in and out, I'm not doing it. The balance sheet will show the change in cash. Income statement won't show dividends. So if you're taking money out of your company and bleeding it out, you can show me the balance sheet and I'll have questions. But the cash flow statement will tell me that the owner took money out or dividends. So for me, all three of those are important. That's if you come to me. If you're now going to, again, commercial banks, balance sheet, income statement important. So understanding who you're talking to is very different. A venture capital firm, they think very differently as well. So you have to understand who your audience is and be able to adjust your pitch for that. If you're talking to an equity investor, or debt investor, they want to know income statement, you can cover my costs. The interest expense, they want to know you cover that. An equity person isn't too focused on that line item. They're focused more on the return. How much cash are we getting in? The return equity. That's what they're asking questions about. So you can't come in there with a debt pitch to an equity person. They're now going to have, live plan. They actually allow you to, when you create your plan, to copy it and you can go in between them. So you could actually choose and say, this one's equity, this one's focused on debt, and you could just adjust in there. And so it's a very useful tool. But on the funding side, you have to understand who you're speaking to and what they are triggered by to say yes. And so obviously financing, shameless plug, I work at the Bahamas Development Bank. And so we have opportunities for funding. Right now we're not very liquid, but we are doing our financial raise right now. And if that is successful, as I hope it is, then we should have some great opportunities. But I would always say still apply, get through the system, because when we do have funds, I know a backlog will be there. And so I recommend whilst things are a little slower, this is the time you can get in. It won't be as much pressure. You can really work with your credit officers. They'll get to know you, understand your business, and we can start moving those things up to even approval level. And so you also have the Bahamas Entrepreneurial Venture Fund. They do up to $250,000. They do debt and equity, and they're a great partner. SBDC they do the guaranteed loan program. So the World Bank in 2016 mentioned that one of the biggest issues in the Bahamas was our collateral requirements are top 3 highest in Caribbean, Latin America. So for you to get $1,000, they want you to have $2,000 in collateral. They want you to have your house, they want you to put your life insurance on it, your mommy, your daddy, your brother, everyone got to sign as a guarantor, so it is high. And so the SPDC having this is very positive. They guarantee up to $1 million, between 70 to 90%, and that's cash. So you go and you get your funding of $500,000, they're going to guarantee it in cash 70 to 90%. And what's that better is you still can pledge your assets, so now you're even more collateralized, and so we're over collateralized, and you can get better terms, better rates, and all those things. So this is a great partner to have. Venture funds is a great partner. And so when you talk about these other entities, commercial banks, I actually believe we are in an upward slope of commercial banks starting to invest in businesses. And so you're starting to see BOB is now about to get the central bank is allowing them to start investing in businesses again. So if you know they stopped investing in businesses because central bank said no, maybe 70 years ago or plus. They're now supposedly supposed to get that back. That's positive. That's an opportunity for a Bahamian bank to invest in Bahamians again. And, sorry?
What was the reason why it was there?
Challenges. There were challenges. we're coming out of a recession in 2009, and a lot of loans, mortgages and business loans went bad during that time. So you saw CIBC in like 2014, 2015, they did a huge write-off of loan business and mortgages, so their balance sheet can look better now. And so you have a lot of that happening across the world. That wasn't only BOB. But the central bank said, hey, no business loans for now. They're doing mortgages and consumer loans, but they're now getting to that. So that's a big blessing. And so other entities are coming into it as well. You have smaller local financial institutions, Simplified Lending, Omni, Leno, all these other entities are now getting into this space. And you have the big boys, the CFAL, the Royal Fidelities, those ones who are doing much larger deals. So you're finding that there's a lot of opportunities for financing in this country. It is very liquid in this country right now. Very liquid. The problem is dealing with, that's how I say it. The reason why the connect is not happening is because you're finding a lot of wealthy persons don't want to get into conversations, the rigmarole of telling you no, and then you say, I didn't tell you no. So finding the good products is difficult. That's why BDB, Venture Fund, SBDC are such great partners, because we are now that intermediary to push you through. And so right now it's a great time actually to be an entrepreneur, in my opinion. There's a lot of money out there. Again, the problem is getting that faucet open. And so through the right network, the right business, having the right pitch, and being at the right time, right place, it is possible. But it is not easy. I'll be honest with you. To get someone to take $1 million and give it to you is not easy to, they're gonna hold that very tightly. And so some persons come to me for 10 million, and they're acting like when I introduce them to the entrepreneur, and they have dinner, and they say, I like this, the money should be coming tomorrow. No, we're talking months of process. We have legal work. We have to do some testing to make sure your due diligence is right. And so having a partner is great. If you go it alone, that's not a problem. It's possible, but it's not an easy process. So understanding the person you're speaking to is very important when it comes to financing. Please.
Can you elaborate on the bootstrapping?
Oh boy, so bootstrapping is pretty much starting off small and pushing it, throwing it down the line and then doing more later. That's pretty much what it is. Starting off small, so let's say you need 100,000, 200,000, maybe I'll start with the minimum viable product. I'll start with the smallest that I need and then getting bigger later. Credit unions is actually interesting. I didn't even notice this. Credit unions are now really getting into businesses as well. And so they are someone who now can actually fund your businesses who wasn't a part of the market before. When you look at Jamaica, they have a lot of locally owned financial institutions who get financing very cheap. The Bahamas, our local institutions, outside of Commonwealth Bank and Fidelity, the smaller ones, they borrow very high. So when they lend to you, they're lending to you very high. If someone borrows $1 million, $10 million at 8%, for me to make profit, for me to pay them back, I'm now at 15%. And so a big issue in the Bahamas is low-cost financing. The credit union has a lower rate than a lot of the smaller financial institutions. So I actually really support the credit unions and for what they're trying to accomplish. Operations and management of your business. I'll go straight to customer service. If you are in a business that has a lot of clientele, a lot of other competitors, if you don't have customer service, it's a wrap. If you are giving equal service to somebody else, same product, same pricing, customer service is the deciding factor when it comes to that. How quickly can I get to your location? How efficient are you providing? Is it an app? Can I pay online? You deliver it? How does it work? And so when you look, I'm gonna skip straight there. This is critical. You have the best product. If you have bad customer service, it's going to be very difficult. There are certain restaurants in the Bahamas who have poor customer service, and they're still doing very well. Their food is that good that persons ignore that. But that is not common. Persons will be turned off. They ain't bringing their family back. I ain't recommended a friend just solely off of not saying good afternoon or like some rolling your eye at somebody. And so if you want to be in business, then your customers are other humans. So if you don't want to provide them a good experience, you have a very low chance of lasting long. Human resources. If you don't pick the right persons, it's not going to work out. You will leave, go on a trip for a weekend, and come back and all your clients are upset. You will be able to trust your staff. And sales and marketing. How easy is it for me to get your product? With sales, like how easy is it to get done? Is it complicated? Someone can have an app and it can be extremely confusing. And so your website can be conjungled and it looks very difficult. So in operating your business, you need to make sure your sales and marketing, how you're depicting yourself publicly, is something that people can resonate, understand very quickly, there was a company called M19. M19. And the picture on the front of the business plan was of dirt. Like a dirt. Just no exaggeration, that's the picture. What would you think that company does? Soil. Here's what you got. M19 Limited. It is a fishing company, and M19 is a scripture. Matthew 19 is the name of their company. No one knew what their company is talking about. No one knows what they're doing. It made no sense. And why was there brown? And he's saying something about the soil, and it didn't make sense in life. But he was a fishing company, a fisherman. But no one understood what he was talking about just off it. People thought the M19 was a gun range. No, that's the person's thought. And so you have to make sure your marketing and branding is something your clientele can quickly understand and say, this is what I'm looking for. No one should have to read the plan and say, oh, this is a fisherman. That's not how it's going to work, and it won't be successful for yourself. Daily oversight. So there's pros and cons to this. A big thing with entrepreneurs is when they start, they're in the mud. Always in it every day. And then as you become successful, you never lift your head up and step back and say, how can I make this better? You continue to be in the mud. You're saying, you know what, I got to serve the drinks. I got to make the food. I got to make the deliveries because I'm used to doing it. They're used to seeing me. No. As a leader, you have to understand when it's time to delegate, stand up and look over your business. So yes, you need daily oversight, but that oversight changes depending on where your business is at. And so you have to be humble enough. I say the word humble because some persons develop pride. My customers want to see me. They want to be with me. There's a book that speaks to why businesses fail. And the first rule of why business fails is you forgot why they wanted you in the first place. That's the first rule. They say every business failed with that first step, no matter what it is. Kodak, they'll say it's because they didn't digitize themselves. No. Kodak forgot why persons came to them. Persons didn't come to them because they're Kodak. They came to them because they were the most innovative camera company in the world at the time. As soon as they stopped being that and they relied on Kodak, you were no longer advancing to become the best. So their unsuccess, their failure, started way before it failed. They forgot why persons came to you. So if you have an ice cream company, they came because you have the best tasting, or very good tasting, or you have fast service, or you have the best service, or you have the best experience, or the best ambiance. As soon as you forget that, there's a juice company person, no, not juice, I'll use the Sky Juice company that persons don't go to anymore. They got obsessed with their name, people love me, and they took good gin and started putting bad gin. And just off that, I'm not coming to you anymore. I came to you because you were the best quality Sky Juice on the island. So as soon as you forget why persons came to you, you will start to lose. And so that's why humble. You have to understand why persons are coming to you, why they continue to give you their hard-earned money. Finance and accounting. If you're not doing this, you're never getting funded. It's simple as that, unless it's your friends or your family, someone giving it to you. If you're not keeping proper records, and at its simplest is depositing to a bank. As simple as taking the money they gave you, going to the bank, deposit it, withdrawing that back out, but there's a record of that money. So if you don't want to use Wix, QuickBooks, or write yourself down, the most simplest way is just deposit your money. So it shows every month, 10,000 goes there. Even if you get paid 40,000, you're depositing 10, the bank is aware of that. 10,000 at minimum, we know they can do. So if you're not doing your accounting side, I promise you, you're going to have a hard day when it comes to financing your company the next step, or even understanding why you're here. So there was a company, I got thousands, and he came into the SBDC at the time and said, he's stressed, sweating, he's really going through it. He's like, I'm making too much money. It's not adding up. I can't be this rich. And I'm saying, bro, you have a good problem. He's like, no, someone's stealing, something's happening. Why are my numbers showing this good? There's no way I'm making this much money. We sat him down, we paid for him to get an accountant, they looked at his finances, they put it in the sheet, got everything together, and he was actually making that much money. That's a good problem. Unfortunately, persons are not normally on that side. They're on the other side. They think they're making that money, but they ain't making that money. That's where 90% of persons are. So if you're not doing that, I promise you, there's a low chance you'll be on his side. There's a high chance you're on the other side. So please, whether it's QuickBooks, Wix is free. Is it Wix or Wix? Wix is the website. Pardon me? It's a free one called, oh man. Wave. Oh, come on, way to go. Right there, got it. Wave is free. So you can use that, put your information in there. Please take it serious for yourself, for your livelihood. You need to understand where your business is at. And so this is traditional issues that startups face. Fierce competition. So, this is an interesting example. Car rental companies. 5 years ago, car rental businesses were oversaturated. It is now worse today, but it's actually thriving better. Like it's doing well. Like people are really doing well with the car rental companies. And so sometimes fierce competition means don't go in. Sometimes it means get in while the getting is getting. It's doing well, get in. You have to understand your industry, do real research, to understand which one is happening. Most persons go on the side of, once I get in, I'll be different, everybody's gonna love me. It doesn't work that way all the time. So you have to understand the business you're in. Unrealistic. Man, we have persons who say revenue is $300,000 for year one. Now I have $2 million year two, $30 million year three. I got the market. And they're walking through this saying, man, fund me tomorrow. I'm never giving you money, sir. I'm never going to give you any money. And so you have to be realistic with your expectations. Expenses. There's a running joke that they used to call me the waste management person, because I would never approve your company if you don't have waste management in your expenses. If you don't have a garbage collector coming for your stuff, I'm not funding you. If you don't, those small things add up. And if you don't take those smallest things serious, it's a wrap for you. And so another example is, you know, about health. So like people, doctors' offices that have needles and things like that, they have a special type of waste management cost that they have. So if you don't understand that, I can't trust you to fully understand your business. So you have to understand everything involved with your business, to the smallest thing to the biggest. Most persons focus on the biggest ones. Now the smallest ones accumulate and they eat you up. Because then you will say, I have 10,000 in the bank, I'm gonna take 9,000 out for my own personal use. So you have 1,000 left in the company. But you missed 2,000 in expenses. Now you're accumulating losses and you don't even realize it yet. So you have to be very realistic, get your quotes, look at how things change, and ask a lot of questions. Hiring unsuitable candidates. This is very common. I hire my friend. I hire my cousin. They don't have a job, so I can make them security at my company. They flirting with everybody walking around. They begging for money, begging for food. No, these are real examples. Someone hired their friend to be the security, and he's begging the customers for $2. He's like, you want me to get $1 here, let me get $2 here. And people don't bother. These are real things. And you're saying, I trust my cousin, we grew up together. If you don't choose the right places, they can single-handedly undo all the hard work you've done. Yeah. So please take that serious. And it's not here, but hiring too soon or hiring too late is actually a very common problem. Some persons say, I want a full staff, I want a full outfit, I want all 20 places I need right now. Nah, you need to get an accountant and a front desk person, and y'all three got to hustle for the next 3 months. Let's accumulate this, figure it out, because you will have to make changes. If you don't allow yourself cushion for changes, when things get tight, it can be too tight. And so, and sometimes hiring too late. Sometimes it's, I just want to keep making this money. They stack it up. We're overwhelmed. Now your service is slower. You're missing things, and now you're struggling. So you have to find that balance of when to hire and when not to hire, or even when to cut back on staff. Financial management, I think I spoke on that enough. Finding your customers. There's this whole thing about build it and they will come. That's a dream most times. There was a guy who said, I want to build this 10 complex on Abaco. And once I do it, they can just show up. No. He got the money, ain't nobody showed up. He just stood there waiting and no one came. He didn't market, he didn't brand, he didn't know what his customers really wanted. They didn't want 2 bedrooms, they wanted 1 bedrooms. And so he never got it outfitted. And so he ended up selling it to somebody else. But you have to understand what your customers want, how to find them. If your customers are very young base, social media might be the method. If your customers are more mature, social media might not be the place. I mean, Facebook might be the place. My mother loves Facebook. And so it depends on your audience. I'll give this example about, his name is Peter Lynch. He's one of the greatest investors of all time. He has a book called Beating the Street. and he speaks on how to invest, right? And he sat down with his wife on the left and his daughter to the right. And this is when Sears was just coming up. I know Sears has failed now, but this is how long ago this was. He said he sat there with his mother, his wife, and daughter. And his daughter said, I want to go to Sears. I need it. I got to go there. And he's like, okay, children like fads, I'll carry there, right? His wife said, I have to go to Sears. And his wife looks for more long-term items, things that are efficient, stable, will last a long time. And he said, my wife wants to go there, and my daughter wants to go there. And he invested a lot of money into it. And he made his fund, Magnolia Fund, whatever it's called, a lot of money off of Sears. Because he understood, if this Sears could pull the fad person and the more stable person, we have a real product here. And so he invested the money, let's push this brand more, and it made a lot of money. So please understand your customers, no matter how small it is, no matter how big it is. If you have a car rental company and you're out east, you can literally name your company East Side Rental, and your customers will know the cars are out east. And so something simple as that is very important. And so you have to understand your client base, winning the trusted customers. It normally doesn't come, sometimes it comes the first time, sometimes it comes the second, sometimes it doesn't come. My wife, when she eats from a very good restaurant and it looks nice and it's good, she loves it. She will go back there every week. But then as soon as something goes wrong, she won't go there no more. She's finished with them. And so you have to win the trust of your customers, but maintain the trust of your customers. Understand what they're looking for. You can look up globally, like there's a lot of day in the life videos, day in the life of a restaurant owner, day in the life of a car salesman, and you can look up the videos or read and understand the stresses they deal with and what it took to get those customers. Cost of financing. I already gave you a last speech early. It's expensive getting debt in this country. Most of the time. And the easier it comes, the higher the cost associated with getting those funds. And externalities speaks to COVID, Hurricane Dorian, crises in general. And so there are certain things, no matter how much you plan, prepare, something can just go wrong. A gas line could break and that stops your opening day, or literally somebody opened up a little cultural village a few years back, and on opening day someone cut the electricity wires the night before. And so you had all these persons coming and nothing. And she broke, she lost herself, and she's not doing anything more. And so sometimes these things just happen, and you can't control it. So no matter what you prepare, you may or may not have externalities coming into place. And so this is pretty much the end of my presentation. But key takeaways, plan as much as you can, but do not get stuck in the planning phase. If you get stuck there, I promise you, someone will take your idea, or there's something else that will come and make your idea redundant. Financing requires a solid understanding of the business. You can't convince me to give you money if you can't even explain it to me properly, if you don't fully understand it. And I'm not talking about some of the best persons to talk to about their business are not the person with a degree in business. You go to the family island and you go talk to somebody about fishing, they will break down the cost in the market, they'll tell you the best place to go. If you want 100 fish today, we gotta go there. If you go there, you won't get you nothing. They will break that down to you, how it works. You go to the hot dog lady, she'll tell you, most of my business come from the eastern side, not the western side. Right over there, they know what to do. When they come in, I already know what they're gonna want versus that. Those persons understand their business very well. They may not explain to you what gross profit is, or net profit margin, or free cash flow to the firm, but they can explain their business in and out. So if you can't understand your business to that level, one, you'll have a hard time succeeding, and two, getting financing. Once funded, don't run away. We have a lot of entrepreneurs who run away when they get financing. They cut their investor off. Oh, sorry, this is my favorite thing to say. If you go to ask someone for financing, equity, and say to them, I want a silent investor, most equity investors are gone. If I saved up $2 million and you wrote a business plan and you tell me I must give you $2 million and you tell me I'm supposed to be a silent partner, when I actually saved my money, you just wrote a plan. They're walking away. They won't tell you that, but they will walk away. Because that person who saved $2 million should be someone who should provide you insight, information, networking opportunities. You should see the value in them. If you tell them to be silent, they say you don't see the value in what I've done and I've accumulated, and they're gone. And so understanding who you're dealing with is, again, very important. Thank you, everybody. I know I spoke for a good while. I think I did 47 minutes, so not too bad. And so thank you so much. I would love questions on entrepreneurship, but I appreciate the CFA Society for inviting me. And thank you so much for listening on this Thursday. Thank you. Please.
I may have missed it, but I didn't hear you talk about a key reason to start a business is that you're solving a problem. A lot of people just think the idea of a business sounds good, but they don't really know if they're solving a problem, and if you could touch on a unique selling proposition.
Okay, so I didn't go into depth into all of those. Very good point. So solving a problem. There's a catch to that. Sometimes you're solving a problem and it works. There's an issue, there's a gap in the market. I can fix this. By doing this, it can allow a bridge to go from point A to point B. Sometimes that same gap exists and both parties are happy with that gap. They are happy with it, so you can create a solution, and sometimes they'll say, nah, I'm good. Leave it exactly the way it is. There was a guy who tried to make a website for, what's it called? Baby showers. So pretty much, instead of having to go into Kelly's or having to go into those, we'll pull the data from Kelly's into the site, so Kelly's, your clients want to come in. That was a solution, so you could do it online. Vehemently denied that. It wasn't Kelly's, I don't want to say the actual name. They said our customers, when it comes to baby showers, don't want that. They want to come in and they like to touch the car seat, they want to feel it. But there's another market who does want to buy online, and they unfortunately prefer to go to Amazon because they say it has more variety. So they were filling a gap, but nobody seemed to want that gap filled. And so, truth be told, you should find, that's the easiest solution, is to find a gap in the system and fix that. But also be aware of, do the persons actually want that resolved? And is the cost to use your service more than what I actually want to get done? And what's your second name? Sorry.
Unique selling proposition. What's going to make you different?
Okay, so yes, your product should be able to stand on its own even when it's on the side of its competitors. All of you should still stand out. Do not spend too much now where your cost is higher than everybody else's cost. So this is a good thing to look at is food. Everybody in the Bahamas wants to buy Bahamian. Buy Bahamian until what? They get to the register and they say it's cheaper to buy what came from the States. And so you have to have a unique product, but you have to find the balance between having the most unique product and pricing yourself or costing yourself out the market, leading to your price being too high. But you do have to look at being unique. You don't want to be something that is. Now you can be in a market where your cars look like everybody else's car and no one cares. My mother will call this car rental company and then this one and just go down the line. But you need to be unique enough in your customer service where they put you to the front of the line. And so you have to find something that makes them say, I remember you over everybody else, or I want to use you over everybody else. So yes, you are correct with that. Any other questions? Or did I explain that? You had any other?
So I want to piggyback on that, what she mentioned, starting with business, getting into business. Any ideas on maybe best plans on getting feasibility studies what you should get into?
The first thing I'll tell you to do is Google whatever business you're looking for and type business plan then. I forgot to mention that. Me, I always, whatever your business is, I don't care what it is. Type it in Google and then put business plan there or put feasibility study there. There's usually some business out there close to you to start off as at least a base. The numbers won't be right because the costing per country will be different. The buyers will be different, but you can start off just like that. Feasibility studies, similar. You can pull it and say, okay, this is what they're looking at. This may not be relevant to the Bahamas, but okay, I see that when we're trying to start this airport in Eleuthera, I Googled small country airport feasibility studies, and you can pull from there and say, oh, I see they're looking for, this is at least a base. Now there are many persons in this country, not many, there's a good amount of persons who do feasibility studies in the Bahamas. There's a lot of persons who do business plans in this country. You can find business plans from $300 to some up to $10,000. It depends. No, seriously, it depends on the complexity of the business, and it also depends on the quality of the writer. I've seen persons come to me, man, I paid this person $300 of my good money. Look at this business plan I got. 3 pages. financial statements are in a little table, this line, this is the income statement, this is the balance sheet, this is the cash flow. Nothing in it. But they paid their money. I've also seen spectacular business plans done for free. Someone said, I'll help you out, I'll work through this with you. And so it depends, but feasibility studies, there are a good amount of persons, they are not cheap. If you want a really good one, I'll be honest, they're not the cheapest thing in the market, but if your business requires it, then you have to do it.
Nick, I won't charge you.
Please. Charlene is the hardest analyst, so if you want your funding on that side, everything I said is still not enough.
I have a question. What advice would you give to persons that want to start a business and leave their job? Because there's this thought that it's always best to work for yourself.
Let me tell you something. If you work to Commonwealth Bank as a VP, and you're making some good change, and you go home to your family, and you have your weekends off, you have done well. Don't mind what they say in this market, you gotta go stress yourself out and scream CEO to the world, and it's like you crying at night, you ain't seeing your friends, you ain't seeing your family, you stress out, and the numbers show 90% of them fail. So the reality is, have some money saved, don't be afraid to jump, but also accept that you may crash into the floor. That is a reality. I don't care how good your idea is. You can literally, politically, just simply, when I say politically, I mean you can go to a government agency and you have a great deal, and just for you to get your licenses could take months and you've now lost your deal. And if you quit your job on that, you have a problem. So I'll say, there are a lot of places I know who are successful when they've left their businesses. A very good example is Lynette Falco. She was in marketing at AML, like a director or something, and in marketing, she married her husband, and he had a business called Falco. She said, you know what, I'm in marketing, but I see a vision for this. She left her job, and Falco now is a shipping company in Grand Bahama, and they have the huge contract for all of the cruise port development, bringing all the items in. Very great success story. I give you that one, and I can give you 10 on the other side too. And so you have to have a strong base around you, have great people around you who can support you, keep you on those low days, who can humble you on those super great days. And so I love entrepreneurship. I do entrepreneurs all day. There's many reasons to, but there's also many reasons not to. And so you have to really take your time, think about it, and make a calculated decision to say, I'm taking the risk of doing this, knowing these things could happen. Try and save as much as you can, and